Well, they're an endangered species. They're putting more fish back into the lake regions and our rivers. And to tell us more about this, we've got Sarah Schott, Wildlife Communications Specialist with the ODNR Division of Wildlife, to tell us more. So, Sarah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a reintroduction program for the sturgeon. Tell us about this fish.
Yes, they're a really cool fish. So some people think they kind of look like a prehistoric fish, and that's because they're one of our more, older, more aligned with our prehistoric fish that we have in Lake Erie. They are the largest fish that we have in all of our Great Lakes. They can get over 6 feet long and over 100 pounds, and they can live over 100 years old. So these fish are really, really cool. But because they're so large, they can be so old, they're really slow to mature. So they only reach that reproductive age at about 10 to 20 years, which when we're talking about the animal kingdom, that is pretty late in life. And so that is something that makes them a little bit less adaptable, say, to the environment. And in the 1800s, due to habitat degradation and overharvest, they declined a lot in all of our Great Lakes, including Lake Erie. And so the Division of Wildlife has been partnering with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Toledo Zoo to reintroduce this prehistoric fish to our lake.
So the best way to do that is put it in some of our rivers around the state. Tell us about the process of doing that.
Yeah, so we release them as little baby sturgeon. They're about this big. They're cute little guys. When they're young, they're quite adorable. And we release them. And now, we're so excited to say in 2025, in 3 different rivers. Historically, we have been reintroducing them or releasing them into the Maumee River since 2018. And then this year, we added the Cuyahoga River and the Sandusky River, which is really exciting. It's giving this fish a better chance at reestablishing itself. And we do that because this fish is just so interesting. It's so fun to talk about because when they're in the natural world, if say they were healthy and we didn't have to do this reintroduction, the adults would spawn in these rivers, lay their eggs, those eggs would hatch, and then that young sturgeon imprints on the waters. It goes out into the lake and it matures and it reaches that reproduction age, and then it goes back to the exact place where it was hatched in that river, and it spawns again. So they imprint on these waters. The idea is that these fish are being released into the Maumee, Sandusky, and Cuyahoga rivers. They imprint on those waters specifically, and when they, 20 years later, they return to those waters to reproduce.
Wow, that is cool, and that's a neat process. But what if they don't get big enough? They reach that age? Are we not allowed to fish for them right now? Or what other things are you guys doing to help them survive?
Correct. So they are a protected species. So here in Ohio, they are endangered. There's no sturgeon fishing or anything like that. Our commercial fishery, every now and then, they will catch one, an incidental catch, and then they're required to release it with as little harm as possible to the fish. And then they report those catches to us. Doesn't happen often with your anglers, but if you do happen to catch a sturgeon, we ask you to quickly snap a couple pictures, get that information to us because it's super important, and then release that fish into the waters. But other than taking in those sightings from the public, if they happen to catch a sturgeon, which is very, very rare, you're really lucky. Go buy a lottery ticket if you catch one. We are also assessing the habitat. So increasing water quality is a huge part for these sturgeon. They are bottom feeders. So if you look closely at a picture of them, their mouth is kind of on the bottom, like on their chin almost. And they spend all their time on the bottom feeding. And so they're really susceptible to pollution and water quality and things like that. They do feed on, little small things. So they might look prehistoric, but they're not dangerous at all to people. They're eating things in the bottom, a little more similar to maybe a catfish. And they're not like a shark or anything, even though they kind of give that look off. But they aren't dangerous. They're really, really neat. And we, invite people to learn more about them and help us bring this really cool fish back to the lake.
Right, yeah. It would be cool to bring more to the lake. So it's really neat to hear about this reintroduction program. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
All right, don't go away. New Edition continues in a moment.